it's not always going to feel super comfortable and fun and like, yay, I'm so excited to do this. Often those conversations can feel really challenging and very vulnerable, but that's where the growth is. On the other side of the discomfort is growth. And that's where the magic happens.
Life is all about relationships. Lovers, family, body, or money. How satisfied you are can be completely explained by how you relate to things around you. This is Sophie Jaffe, and together with my husband, Dr. Adi Jaffe, we are here to explore and teach you how to maximize your relationships and achieve a happier life. Let's get ignited.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Relationships Podcast. I'm Adi Jaffe.
And I'm Sophie Jaffe.
And I got to say, I'm happy to bring you an interview today from before the Corona days.
Yeah.
The days of old.
Yes.
We didn't know there was going to be a time period like this when we were just locked in a house.
Yep. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, y'all. We won't be here forever, but things will be different.
Look, I'm just happy. There's a light outside our window right now as we're recording it.
Exactly.
It was cloudy and rainy for days and days and days. And man, I honor all of you who are struggling, literally stuck in apartments right now. When we got stuck for like 3-4 days in a row right now inside with this kind of like cloudy gray days, I just felt my depression strengthen within like 4 days.
Yeah.
And I was losing my shit.
Yeah.
So honor all of you.
The sunshine brings out the sunshine in all of us, you know?
Yeah, no doubt. That's why I love that Cali life. We are bringing you an interview with Melissa and
Ambrosini.
Nick.
Yeah.
You've become even better friends with Melissa since we recorded this interview.
Yeah.
And we want to give you guys a tip that Melissa is releasing her interview with Sophie and I the same day. Literally the same day. So if you love her, and obviously you're going to love Melissa, just jump over to her podcast.
Yep. Listen to this and then you'll fall in love and go over and listen to even more depth about a D&I's relationship. We walk through, you know, everything about how we met, to the trauma we went through and life on the other side. So if you haven't heard our story, if you want to hear it in a different light, head to Melissa.
Yeah. You ready for the review of the week?
Yes.
Do you want to give me the drum roll? I feel like her drum rolls are getting more creative, guys. What do you guys think? She's getting better at them. All right. Shelby Million. I like that. Soulful, intentional, and educational. I started listening to Ignited at the beginning of the year and look forward to every single episode. Sophie and Adi have been expanders for my relationship and speak honestly and authentically about their personal experience of partnership as individuals and spiritually. They're incredibly complimentary and provide a refreshingly honest dialogue around partnerships and the real struggles and triumphs that come with it. An excellent combination of science, modern spirituality, authenticity, and what matters most, relationships with others and your own self. Thank you, Sophie and Adi, for your beautiful story and inspiring me to continue to do the work and continue to grow into my higher self. Sending love and light.
Love that.
Thank you so much, Shelby. Don't forget to reach out to us and connect and get our care package.
Yep. Don't forget, if you leave a review and we read it live, which we probably will if you leave a great review, you get a special care package from us with some Ignited swag and philosophy superfoods. Today's quote is from Shalina, which is, she was a rising woman. She's our guest.
You just had her on the podcast.
Mm-hmm. She was our guest 2 weeks ago. So go check her out. She's from the site Rising Woman. She's phenomenal and she does a lot of relationship work. I see a lot of parallels in the work she does with her husband and Adi and I. So I love this quote and I saved it to read to you guys. You cannot create a conscious relationship with someone who isn't committed to doing their work, but you can create a better relationship with yourself. And sometimes that looks like releasing yourself from the idea that you can change another person or convince them to grow. Choose yourself. And we talk about this a lot, conscious relationships. A lot of people ask us, you know, I get emails all the time, DMs all the time. I hop on phone calls with people that are going through trauma, fighting, addictions, cheating, betrayal. And they always ask, women mostly, how do I know if I should stay or not?
Yeah.
And it's really hard to know. Even if I'm on a 2-hour conversation with someone, it's really hard to know. I'm not in your relationship. I don't know that person.
Sure.
However, when I say, if you really want to know my feelings on it, what I always say is, if they are willing to do the work, it's worth fighting for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we know that in our own story. It's really interesting to hear Melissa and Nick's version of this, because this is a second marriage for him. And he actually admits that like he just wasn't ready in the first one. He didn't understand that he needed to improve and change and adapt.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing for a lot of us to admit, right? Somebody wrote to me yesterday on Instagram and we were having a conversation, and they were actually admitting to me how kind of closed-minded they were years ago, a decade ago. And I said, you know what? That shows you've expanded. The fact that you can now recognize that. And then now your job is to keep that in mind, that right now you might be seeing things wrong. And that's okay. There's no fault in that. There's no shame in it. But if you have the open-mindedness, then when new evidence presents itself, when you have new ways of thinking in front of you, you'll be open to them.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. I think, we do talk about we want to reduce the divorce rate, but really what we want to do is help people that are in love and have a fighting chance to fight for it. If you're not in love with your partner, if there's domestic abuse, if there's any sort of abuse, if you're, there are plenty of reasons why not to stay. But if you are just wanting to leave because you don't want to look at your stuff, or your partner doesn't want to do the work or look at his stuff, that's not reason to walk away from each other. The reason to walk away from each other is if they're not willing and refusing to work or go to therapy or look under the...
Yeah, I mean, look, there could be, like you and I have always talked about how at the core, a lot of our values align. We both love kids. We've always wanted kids. Family is really important to us. We've also, I think you've at least always been really supportive of my kind of need and drive to create massive change. And I've welcomed, because we do have differences, I've always welcomed, I think I even talked about this stuff when we're dating, how much more social and interactive you are with people, because I do isolate a lot more than you. And so there are huge differences that can be easily bridged.
Oh, yeah.
You just have to be able to do the work.
No, we have a lot of things that are core similarities. We have a lot of things that are core differences too. That's not why you want to leave. That conflict doesn't equate leaving.
Yeah.
If you're willing to work and find a middle ground. We have found a middle ground in some of our biggest arguments, our biggest fights, our biggest pain points in our relationship. We have found a way to meet in the middle, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You guys are going to be so inspired by this. We love Nick and Melissa so much. They're amazing. They're our wonderful friends now. Actually, since recording this, I loved her from afar, but I had never met her. And then she came over and they recorded in our home. We had them over for dinner, and I've been connected really intimately with Melissa ever since. So
absolutely.
They're incredible. We are also thinking about, I'm going to leak this a little bit. We're talking about next year doing a retreat in Australia, a couples retreat. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And we love you. Enjoy this podcast.
Also, I just want to mention once again, those of you who are looking for help because you're isolated and you need support, we still have this low cost $43 a month, $1.50 a day support on Ignited.
And this Saturday, we're going live, a D&I, with the relationship group on Saturday. So Saturday morning, the relationship group, all you have to do is sign up on the website, and we will see you on Saturday if you're interested, if you're in a relationship. If not, we also have, you don't have to be in a relationship for these groups. There's
By the time
trauma.
This comes out, there's 10 groups that are going to be, Kate Van Horn is joining us. There's literally going to have 10 different groups on everything from trauma to addiction to mental health, to just public sharing
of what you're going through.
Support groups with a professional coach on with you.
Yay!
It's amazing.
So exciting.
Come join us. The link will be below. Although I think Maddie just created a link for us. It's a bit.ly link, all caps, Ignited Help.
Great.
Go get it.
Awesome. Mwah. This episode of the Ignited podcast is brought to you by Philosophy Superfoods. The Philosophy offers cleanses and other nutritional products that are unlike any of the other supplements and detoxification programs on the market. Why? Because they actually nourish the body with whole, live, nutrient-rich foods instead of depriving you and leaving you hungry. Have you ever tried a cleanse only to find out that you can't make it through a whole day because you're starving? Ever try a superfood shake that made you nauseous because it was so disgusting you'd rather not eat? The Philosophy fixed all that with a simple set of offerings that load up your body with nutrients while actually tasting good. Makes sense, right? Each of the Philosophy superfood and protein blends is vegan, raw, gluten-free, and has absolutely no filler ingredients. With over 15,000 satisfied customers, including some of the world's biggest celebrities like George Clooney, Gerard Butler, Lea Michele, and over 10 years of experience, this is the best stuff you can get. To buy some or find out more info, go to our website, thephilosophy.com.
All right, everybody, we are back to the chat part of today's talk here. And this is my favorite format when we actually get to interview another couple. It's only happened a handful of times where we get this lucky. So it's really, really nice. And we're incredibly lucky today to have Melissa Ambrosini and Nick Broadhurst here today. And you guys are individually epic and have done a lot on your own. So having you two together, I feel like, let alone in our house in LA, is like a once in a lifetime chance. So thank you so much for making it.
Guys, thank you. We feel so blessed to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you guys walked into, we always tell people that our house is a hostel and there's a bunch of people walking in and out, but you can't really understand until you actually walk into our house.
Yeah, we're pretty casual around here.
But I love that.
We're all a family.
Yeah, I love that. You get that vibe. As soon as you walk into your house, it's family. Mm-hmm. You really do feel that.
Yeah, that's what we want to impart and just share with our community, and whether or not you're coming to podcast or like you're in our circle, if you're here, you know? Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So much to talk about. It's funny, for those of you listening right now, we were talking ahead of time about what topics should we cover. And I feel like there's huge alignment in the topics, Melissa, that you talk about on your podcast anyway, and the stuff that we cover here. Have you ever done a podcast together?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we do episodes. So I go onto hers.
Got it.
And we do one called the Yin Yang Q&A. So we answer all the audience questions. And I have a podcast too, but I did that for a year. I did 108 episodes. It was a solo cast. And I just had so much to say, and I just got it out of my system. And then I thought, I feel good now. I'm done.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think that's why we like interviewing people, is because there's a lot for us to say. We talk once a month, just the two of us, but it's your story that I think is so intriguing, and to be able to bring the worlds together.
Right. To be able to connect our story with yours is really where it's at. And I think that's what people really want. And yeah, there's this huge value to sharing our own wisdom. And again, we do that. We talk, every month we have 4 episodes that go live, and the first 3 weeks are with guests and a specific theme. And then the last one we go deep, and that's the two of us interviewing each other and just connecting about the topic and reviewing who we interviewed. And I love that because then we get a little bit of both.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
I think it's so important that there is people like you guys doing this, because there aren't many examples of relationships that are taking responsibility, conscious relationships, whatever you want to call them. And I think it's just so beautiful that you guys are doing that and just sharing your wisdom and what you've learned and things like that. It's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not easy. That's for sure.
Oh, totally.
And we catch flack for it because, we don't mince words. So actually, I want to hear about the two of you. I mean, a lot of achievement between both of you. Let's start at the basics. How did this start?
Our relationship?
Yeah.
Well, I've actually been married previously, and I have a 14-year-old son. So I had to move through a lot of stuff post that marriage. It was a very challenging breakup, very public, lots of infidelity. It's one of those things which at the time I had no tools, 0 tools to cope with that. So for me, I stored it inside. I stored it as anger. And that built up into physical problems, physical health problems. I was almost bedridden for 3 years with mystery illnesses, fibromyalgia, whatever you want to call it, Ultimately, I destroyed my nervous system through stress and through anger. I didn't have the outlet at the time. But I found myself in a beautiful relationship for a few years, and it could have been another great relationship. I almost proposed, but I read conversations with God. I was in the middle of the ocean on a surf trip, and I read this one sentence in there that said, "Let your love propel your beloveds into the world so they may experience the fullest version of themselves. Only then if you truly loved." And I'm totally paraphrasing. But when I read that, I realized I had to let her go. And I'm so glad I did, because 6 months later, we were engaged, and we knew of each other. Our partners at the time were friends. Yeah. So we'd been to dinners and we'd sort of seen each other out and about, but we'd never really saw each other. We were aware of each other, but it was like there was this wall up saying, "No, it's not time. Don't go there yet." You know,
Still too much work to do.
Yeah. So, you know, we when we did come together, it was very quick. We had a couple of beautiful dates, and we were engaged in 2 weeks. And and it was just on. It was just
And then we got married 5.5 months later, and that was 6 years ago.
Amazing.
And one of the most common questions we get asked when we tell that story straight away is like, they're like, "How did other people respond?"
Right.
You know, and there was some people that were so happy for us. Like the people that were in happy marriages and relationships were so happy for us. They were like, "This is like a fairy tale. Like, this is amazing. Like you've found your person." And then there was a few people who, not many, but they weren't in happy relationships, and they weren't happy within themselves, that they would say to us, "Don't you think you're rushing?" Like, and then we always say, like, it was one of the most sure things that we've ever done. Like, it was almost choiceless.
It wasn't even a thing.
It wasn't even a thing. It was just like effortless, being guided.
Yeah. I don't remember if it's as good as it gets. It was the movie, but there's a line from a movie which is, when you meet the person you're meant to spend the rest of your life with, you want the rest of your life to start right now. You don't want to wait.
Totally. Like,
so it sounds like that's what it felt like.
Totally.
Point, because society says you're supposed to wait a year,
2 years,
2 years,
yeah,
and then another year to be engaged and like plan the wedding and all those things. Who says that's the way it has to be?
Totally.
So I have a different question, because as you can tell from Sophie and I's story, we don't care that much about what other people think. I want to know, for you, you'd been in a relationship before, and you had been in another one in the middle that was good. I'm assuming you'd had other relationships, Melissa. So what felt different? What was that X factor that you had here that just you hadn't found before?
It was like home. Like it truly was home. Like, we've been together in many past lives, if you believe in that. It was literally like, people used to say to me, "When you know, you know." And I'd be like, whatever. But there was a deep knowing. There was just like this deep knowing and trust. Like, he's my person. And it was really interesting because our parents, when they then met me, so when Nick's parents met me, they were like, "Oh, of course. Of course you two." And then when my parents met Nick, they're like, "Oh yeah, of course. Like, you two are each other's people." So when people met us together, they were like, "Oh yes, of course you two are together. You're each other's person." And so, yeah, it just felt like home. And that saying, "When you know, you know," like, I used to like be like, whatever. That is the biggest load of BS. But then when I met him, I was like, yeah, I know. Yeah.
I think the home feeling comes from the amount of unity you have together. I mean, I call them unity points. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's like these points of unity where there's so much unity that it just feels like, my gosh, this is just, I mean, I was going to say easy then, but of course, being in a really...
It's like more easeful.
Correct.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
Correct.
And like, relationships shouldn't be easy all the time because you're doing hard work, but it's easeful to do the hard work because it's a pleasure to do it with your person.
Well, also, we know,
It's easeful.
I think Sophie just invented a word.
well, we'll take it. I like it. But I think as well that when especially when you marry, I think there's something quite unique about marrying because, you know, you kind of draw a line in the sand and it's like, well, I know she's my soulmate and we're married and we've got these plans together and okay, this situation may be tough, this may be uncomfortable, but I mean, do we want to just move through this now or let's drag out for a week or a month or let's just get cut to the chase. We're in it together forever. Let's just get through this.
We were talking about that right before we started and, you know, Sophie and I share openly, obviously you guys as well, And every once in a while, that makes people really uncomfortable because there are a lot of topics you're not supposed to talk about. You're not supposed to talk about the things that aren't working well in your marriage if you keep it together. You're not supposed to talk about sex unless you're just generally saying,
we love talking about sex.
We have good sex. Like, unless that's all you say. But if there's struggles or if your sex doesn't look the way everybody else says that it's supposed to look, you're supposed to write that off. In general, I think you're not supposed to talk about anything that's not going well unless you're talking shit about your partner. I feel like people are totally fine venting about their partner to others, but then like in combined company, just put on a pretty face. And so we catch a lot of flack for being more honest. You know, I always say there's still a gap between our most raw, just the two of us, and what we share with the world. But we share a lot. And we were talking about that before, how so many people are so quick to use any opportunity that looks like, well, it's not a perfect match, or there's conflict, there's friction, as a way out, like as a door, as an exit route. And I say this all the time, Sophie, we say it to couples we work with all the time. That to me is the thing that separates the couples that make it long-term versus not, is the recognition, just like you just said, Nick, that there's going to be conflict. You can drag it out, never talk about it, and wait until it explodes, or let's just deal with it right now.
Yeah, it's almost like if I had to picture what it's like being in this sort of relationship, if you picture, this just came to me then actually, this visual when you said burst or pop, whatever it was. If you sort of imagine like you're in this beautiful bubble together, and it is a container that, you know, if you respect it, you can really float with that beautifully. But occasionally something does come along that bursts your bubble a bit, you know, and you can just kind of fall all the way back down, or you can just pick up another bubble and keep going, you know. And I think that works for me as a metaphor, I guess, is because if you respect that container is going to give you the sort of growth you just simply, it's very, very hard to get that growth on your own. And so Melissa and I have always said that, you know, coming together was the most effortless, easy thing, but then being together is, you know, it's polarity, it's duality. Like there is both, all the experiences that are available to us are heightened in this relationship because there's nowhere to hide anymore. So, I mean, right now there's things happening in our life where Melissa's like calling me out on it all the time because, you know, she's checking me in now. Like, okay, just going to check in on this. Are you sure? Otherwise I could go off on some tangent, you know? So.
And it's easy for me to keep my mouth shut. Like it's easy, but I'm like, no, like I'm not here to do that. Like I'm here to
ask the tougher questions.
And I want him to be the best version of himself, and he wants the same for me. And that's our role in our union that we've chosen to play for each other. We want to hold each other accountable. It's not always rainbows and butterflies. And this is the thing, like I think a lot of people look at us and look at you guys and they think, even though we openly share on our podcast, and so do you, they think we're perfect.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, did you just hear what I just, like the story I just...
Do I need to link a few like articles for you?
And I'm like, there's no such thing. And I think a lot of people, they want this ideal, like perfect, quote unquote perfect, where you never fight. And that is just not reality. But what I do think, you know, we model really well is we take responsibility. We're both individually doing the work and we do work together. And I am 100% responsible for my 50% and he is 100% responsible for his 50%.
Yeah.
And if we both continue to own that, then we're going to move through stuff.
Yeah, and you can use it as an opportunity. Like everything that comes up isn't good or bad. And that took me I'm a person who used to love good and bad. Like that's just the way I grew up thinking the world was. Like, if I do this, it's good. If I do that, it's bad. And it took me cheating on a D 5 years ago.
You cheated on me?
Dun, dun, dun. And it was a one-night stand.
Perfect relationship, y'all.
Perfect.
Yeah. Hashtag perfect.
You know, and that even was an opportunity for my best friend who was there that night and who I came immediately and told her and him. And I was intoxicated. I was on MDMA. I had like taken cocaine. I was on a bunch of champagne. The guy was sober. And, you know, we'll get into that, like questionable rape situation. But I take control in that there was a part of me that was like, oh, he cheated on me once. Like, I'd like to experience this. I've never had a one night stand. And after that, I beat myself up so badly. It was an opportunity for my best friend to take me down from this pedestal she put me on. She put us on a pedestal. She got to experience in raw form. Like, they didn't believe me. They were like blinking their eyes. Like, what? I'm like, they didn't, they're like jaws to the ground. They took several minutes for them to understand that I was telling the truth, that this just happened. And it took me, I don't know, a year to realize that there is no good and bad. It's what you do with it. It's an opportunity to learn, to grow, to experience together. I probably wouldn't have felt safe enough in myself to do that without the security of my person. I wouldn't have let myself do that because that was bad, quote unquote. It was bad to have a one night stand. It was bad to X, Y, and Z. So to me, it was so freeing. And I took myself down from that pedestal because I had put anyone who had had a one night stand or cheated in the bad category. Who am I to judge what anyone else does? And so I think that all of these opportunities, as much on the spectrum of quote bad it could be to good, looking at it as an opportunity for growth. And yeah, we could have separated each time that we made big mistakes or each time that we got into a big fight, but instead we use it as an opportunity.
Like, guys, I'm so proud of you, like truly, for speaking about this, because like you said, anytime things get hard, and I always say the grass isn't greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it.
Yeah.
And if you want your relationship to thrive and flourish and to grow and evolve, you've got to invest the time and the energy. And you guys faced something that was really challenging and you went, we're going to do this.
And even in the moment, I looked at him and I said, and like I had supported him through years and years of this kind of similar stuff, of just so much work. And I looked at him and I was like, are you leaving? We had 2 kids at the time. And he was like, no, I'm not leaving.
Literally, I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? What?
He hated me in that moment. He hated my actions. He was very upset, like super charged up. I was afraid. Like, my insecurities came up. Like, I did something so quote unquote bad. Like, I deserve to go to hell. I deserve, all those things. I didn't grow up in a Christian home. It's so funny that we come up with these things.
If we can find like a 3-day hell where it's just really uncomfortable,
You gave me that.
and I could send you there for a few days.
I went there. Yeah. I was in my own hell and filth. Yeah.
But it's, the thing is, it doesn't, a lot of people, like the infidelity thing is really hard for a lot of people to process, but everybody goes through trials and tribulations in relationships. You will. And so the question is, are you going to be able to double down and, like we said before we started recording, stop trying to be right and prove that you're right and figure out how to make the relationship the best that it can be?
Yeah, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? It's like right and wrong is a really slippery slope. And I think in relationships it gets heightened. It can become tit for tat. But if you just acknowledge that in life, in the world, in the universe, there is no right or wrong, it actually changes everything, your relationship to everything. Now, of course, there are things that can feel really uncomfortable, the deceit of infidelity. So the problem there is obviously the trust, right? Yeah. And the lack of transparency. But the action itself is not actually right or wrong, but there was just something in there that triggered the pain because there was a lack of honesty between you, right? So for me, that was a huge thing, even with with Leah, my son's mother. So I was always trying to make her wrong. Well, we broke up because of this and blah, blah, blah. And then, well, you're parenting this way. And I found that really challenging because we parent very differently. And then actually in the first year of our getting together, I had this realization where I was like, I had this phone call with her and it was really uncomfortable. And I got off the phone call and I just went, oh my God, I'm trying to make her wrong, and
our patterns.
Yeah. And I just promised myself to never do that again with her. And all of a sudden, in that moment, all the anger, everything dissolved, everything went away, and I felt intense love and compassion for her. And that was literally by just seeing the other side, because I wasn't seeing the other side. And if you don't see the other side, you get fully emotionally charged. So for me, it's been profound, just acknowledging there's no right or wrong. And I don't think we get into that much in our relationship. I think most of the issues we have in our relationship is probably when we haven't had enough sex.
Yeah.
Seriously. I know when I say
Or
sex,
closeness or intimacy.
just intimacy.
Yeah.
And because our sex is beautiful in the sense that it's a very deep spiritual experience for us. And it's the glue that binds us together. And anything that's happening which is uncomfortable in our life is a symptom of a lack of intimacy. And all we need to do, it could feel like the relationship's about to end, and then one cervical orgasm later, and the world is freaking sweet again.
I'm like, what? Who? I'm amazing.
And it's amazing.
Why are you making such a big deal? Like,
we've literally had that conversation before. Just anger and anxiety and stress. I think
as long as you're on the same page, I think it's okay. But oftentimes, like Adi will go there. He'll just be like, we're just in such a bad place. I'm like, no, we're not. We're so good. And then like he needs that to feel. And sometimes I do. It's like, but the best is when it's at least on the same, like we're both like, we're
But even
apart.
like, was it a week ago? I think it was a week ago when we were in that place where we were going to go to bed, and there was tension. You could feel the tension. And then Sophie's back is to mine. My
I know
back is
exactly
to
what's
hers.
about to happen. Yeah.
I turn over. It's like a very careful, like arm over, just testing the water. Sophie understands what's happening. She comes closer, and it took 3 minutes of this dance. We end up having sex, and then it's like not only was there not tension,
It was the opposite.
but it was the exact opposite. It was we hadn't felt closer. It's as if we hadn't felt closer in forever, and it's such an interesting thing to recognize. Because like anything else in life, you can get locked in the perspective that you're seeing the world from in that moment. And it's the same thing. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
Yeah, and she talks about this in her book Open Wide so well. There's a saying, nothing good comes from closing. And it's literally one of the most transformative things you can agree upon and use as like a mantra in your relationship. Because whenever someone's closed, ain't nothing good coming from that. And what was happening for you guys in the bed was, the back closed is, you were closed.
Turned off. Yeah.
And so we acknowledge this all the time. And we literally tell the same story.
Like
Because
my back to
my
him.
back, and I
literally. And he'll
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 start
tap
playing
me
with
and
her
like
hair,
pull my shoulder, and he's like testing the waters.
Yeah.
And then like I'll finally like soften and open up again.
Yeah.
But nothing good comes from closing is one of our favorite sayings.
changes everything.
But it's also not just in your intimate relationship with your friends.
It's in everything.
Like it's every relationship. Like you close down, withdraw love, close off your heart. Nothing good is going to come from
Yeah.
that ever.
So let me ask you a question, because I wonder about this, and I think I know why it happens to me. And almost all of it is out of insecurity. Almost all of it comes from a place of, it's never really about Sophie. It's about me being afraid that my partner is going to reject me in some potentially really small way. Because I don't think she's leaving because of it, but you said, Nick, you were talking about like triggers, some past hurts. And it's almost like I can feel all the times that I didn't feel cool enough or good enough or smart enough or whatever, fill in your blank. And when I was a kid or even a teenager, it was just a feeling that would take over me. And now I feel like oftentimes my biggest job as an adult is to recognize that I'm having the feeling, see it, go, oh, wait, I've had this feeling multiple times before. It's just a lie. It's just a story my brain tells me. And then find a way to almost like muscle my way out of it and go, you know what? No, fuck it. I'm taking over. I'm not allowing this childish fear that I've had to dictate what my life is like now. And I don't know if that's the same for everybody else. I know we've talked to some people who have the same thing, but what do you attribute it, given the experiences you've had in life, to the fact that even though we have the knowledge we're talking about here, right here, and yet, in 6 days, we might find ourselves in a similar situation and have to go through the internal process again?
Well, I think like the human condition is we sort of forget, we forget our lessons so quickly.
Yeah.
There's a great book called We Learn Nothing. And it's kind of a funny sort of book, but it has a very good message in that. I think some lessons are just harder to learn than others, to be honest. There's some things that are just harder for me to move beyond than it is for Melissa, and vice versa, and that's just our own thing. I don't really know, actually.
I feel like it's childhood wounds.
Yeah, the inner child stuff's interesting. Yeah.
Like it all stems from that. Or not even childhood wounds. It could be past relationship wounds.
But even just hearing you speak then, it was like, I could feel what you were just saying then in myself from teenage years. I could, and I don't think I've actually thought about it too much, but not cool enough, didn't fit in that group, or, you know, wasn't as good a surfer as that guy or whatever, you know.
Insecurities.
And I can feel that. So that's obviously in my system. It's very real still. Yeah.
I think as well, like the more honest you can be with each other. In Open Wide, I talk a lot about CCC, crystal clear communication. Whenever there is a relationship breakdown, it's usually because one of us hasn't practiced crystal clear communication.
Absolutely.
Or made love to.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
there's lack of, which it comes back from, I haven't expressed that I wanted to, you know, like that it's a lack of CCC. You know, I could have expressed to you that I want to make love. Like it's really important to me right now or something like that. But I'm just like holding it in. Why doesn't he know what I'm like? Why can't he read my mind?
Yeah.
And then the masculine will go, what's wrong, baby?
Nothing.
And I know exactly what's wrong, right? I'm like, why
Right.
don't I just in that
do it.
moment, just get onto it,
Yeah.
you know? And I'm out sitting there trying to have a dialogue around it, like that
Yeah.
classic masculine trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, and the best thing I can do is actually embrace the masculine energy of being very directional and take action. Which, you know, and I find that really funny, you know, because that comes back to what you were just saying, that we are always faced with this polarity. Like, because the masculine wants to figure things out, but actually has the directional ability to just do it.
Yeah.
But still tries to figure it out.
I feel
It's
like we
this
have that
weird-
issue. Like you like struggle to just pounce. Like you'll know that what I want and you just like hesitate because you want me to say what you want me to say or you want permission in some way.
Hey, why do you hesitate? I'm curious.
I mean, again, right, this is what I love about these conversations. There's always room for me to learn, but I definitely identify times in my past where there was fear of rejection. And even though this is my person, even though we've been together for 15 years, even though she's
Not
been
going anywhere.
I mean, you better not. But you know, even though I know all that logically, there's this. You said child wound. Like it's just this piece that is almost expecting that the whole reality is going to crumble any minute because I was actually right when I was younger and I didn't fit in. And it's so funny to say it out loud because it's always there in the background in a very, very small way. But I ignore it the vast majority of the time. The vast majority of the time, it doesn't affect me. But even as you're talking, Melissa, about this crystal clear communication, we are incredibly transparent in our communication. And yet there's always an opportunity to get better.
Totally.
Always a way to just be a little bit more expressive, a little bit more direct, a little bit more of asking for what you want. Because even in the radical transparency, sometimes I hide from myself what I want because I fear how Sophie might react to it. And so just being over and abundantly clear.
Imagine if we just said, like, there's a little part of me that is feeling like so scared right now because I feel like you're going to reject me, but I'm going to say it anyway.
You said this actually.
I do. This is how I communicate
I've
with
heard
him.
this sentence, so I
you
know,
know,
yeah.
and that I haven't always like I've
Yeah.
had to learn
Yeah,
this.
it takes a lot of time and
yeah, like
practice.
there's a little part of me that feels so scared right now. Like I just feel like I'm going to be rejected. I feel like I'm going to be abandoned, but I'm going to say it anyway because I can't be bothered beating around the freaking bush anymore. And then I share, and it's done and over in like 2 minutes.
Always.
You know, it's so much easier where that could have gone on for weeks.
Well, for some people, like we work with couples. Sometimes it's years.
I know.
It's not weeks.
I
I
know.
think even as we're having this conversation in here, and I think it's important to point this out because you mentioned this, Melissa, earlier. Like people look to us and they go, "Oh my God, they have a perfect relationship," and it's not. And we try to be as clear about that as possible. But at the same time, these lessons that we've learned have definitely shortened the gap between our relationship and a perfect relationship. And what I mean by that is not perfect as in never has conflict. Perfect as in we figured out the tools to allow us to, in every moment, have the best potential experience of that moment. There will be conflict. There will be people outside of our relationship that will come between us and bring things up and trigger our partner when we didn't do anything. And that conflict will just spill onto us like, dirty water, just kind of like messing up our reality. I think, again, you said it really well, Nick. It's just about having that awareness and figuring out a way to muscle your way through it. Like you said, the masculine of just taking the action. You can think about it for 17 years if you want and never fucking do anything.
Or talk about it. Which would drive the feminine freaking nuts.
Yeah. Well, maybe talk to your partner, but then you can go, that's the thing that I hate the most. And we talked about this on this podcast. I hate it the most when people go talk to other fucking people about it. Like they're going to goddamn solve anything in your relationship. And then what happens, unfortunately, is you talked about polarity. It creates like deeper and more distant
Divides.
polarity. Yeah. Because now your partner is not even aware of the issues that other people in your life are. Now it creates this really negativity that that interjects itself onto your relationship over, and there's secrets and all that. And I think that's when it gets really bad.
Yeah, I just want to speak to that for a minute because I think anyone listening, it's very important who you get relationship advice from. Like it is very important who you take your relationship stuff to. I don't talk about my marriage or anything that we're going through to anyone but a therapist, one of our therapists, or a spiritual teacher. You know, we don't really go to friends and talk about what we're going through. It's like we go to someone that can hold space for us, non-judgmental, and help us move through it. Because I think what I see with a lot of people and in society today is they feed into that drama. Yeah. It's that drama of, oh yeah, he's a dick. And it's like, okay, it's like this, people love that gossiping drama, and that is not serving anyone.
No,
like
ever.
It truly,
by the way,
ever.
Forget not even just in relationships, this idea that speaking ill of others is somehow going to make anything, but it's not even going to make you feel better. It's literally just going to make you feel worse. It's like refeeding on this poisonous set of thoughts, sending them to other people, having them regurgitate them back to you, and expecting somehow that your life is going to get better through it. It's always been one of the things that irks me the most, but especially around the most important relationships in your life. I want to honor my partner enough to know that they're the ones that need to hear the message.
Totally. Go to them.
Yeah.
Sit down, practice CCC, practice crystal clear communication. It's not always going to feel super comfortable and fun and like, yay, I'm so excited to do this. Often those conversations can feel really challenging and very vulnerable, but that's where the growth is. On the other side of the discomfort is growth. And that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, we've definitely had to seek advice at times. There's one particular thing that's come through our relationship, which has just been a very, a big growth curve for Melissa to move through. And in that case, I wasn't the best person to support her because I was too close to it. And so it's taken us a little while to actually find the right people to support with that. And in fact, one I guess therapist, you'd say, personally, I felt was actually doing more harm, which I had to sort of interject and undo. There's a bit of feeding of those thoughts. So you got to be really careful about where you get advice from. But I think as well, sometimes it's okay to reach out because there just might be something where it's so charged that the perspective can't come from the partner, because what you want from your partner is a lover and not a coach, and we always are very mindful not to coach each other. It's a really interesting thing which we play with, isn't it? It's like, how do we give perspective on the situation without coaching?
By the way, just to be clear, I'm not saying don't talk to other people about your relationship. What I'm saying is
is it how you talk?
It's that the bitching, whining.
Yeah, the gossiping. Yes.
The intention's not there to move through it. The intention's wrong.
If you have people in your life that are good people that have your best interest at heart, having conversation with them about what's going on in your life and seeking advice is wonderful. I find over and over and over that none of my guy friends will do this now because I don't associate with people who would do this normally. But I used to have friends who would just, like, when we would all hang out, they would just speak ill, otherwise known as talking shit, about their partner. And at the time, I don't think, I mean, I was younger. It was like 15 years ago. I didn't realize how, not just inappropriate, because forget fucking appropriate, just like how damaging that is to their relationship as they're doing it. Like, why are you talking shit about your partner to me? How disrespectful. And getting back to the beginning of our conversation, if you don't have enough respect for your partner to trust that they have the resources, they are the kind of person that you want, what the fuck are you doing with them?
I think respect is one of the most important qualities in a relationship to have. And yeah, like we asked Nick's parents on our wedding day, what is their one key to their marriage? They've been married for what, 50?
Approaching 50 years.
50 years. And I said, what's the key? Tell me. And his mum said, respect. And no matter what, she was like, even though he drives me crazy, she's like, I respect him. And I've seen other marriages where there's that nagging and that putting down and
tit for tat.
The tit for tat, like I did this, so you do that, like that sort of thing. And then this constant like berating and nagging and eye rolling and things like that. And I'm like, that is not respect. Like they're
just a few orgasms away from fixing all that though.
True.
Well, it's very hard to be intimate when you're tit for tatting.
Well, but that's what I'm saying, right? So there's this kind of cyclical process where you get farther and farther intimately, and that fuels the resentment and the anger. And then you get farther and farther intimately. And next thing you know, some couples, I mean, I work with some couples sometimes, they have sex once a year.
What?
Like some haven't. Like they'll have a drunken whatever and then they hook up. But when you hear that, you start understanding the depth of the breach in intimacy that they've had.
Well, this is the thing with that saying, nothing good comes from closing. Because there was a moment for that couple where the divide started, and at the very beginning it was 1 millimeter. And then it becomes this, this chasm they can't even cross anymore.
So true.
And to be honest, at times that one initial point of closing off can become too great for some people, and the relationship ends. But once you know this, we always sort of joke, like every partner, every relationship should have it tattooed on their foreheads or on their body somewhere. Like nothing good comes from closing.
We used to actually have it written on our mirror. Like we had these pens that you can write on the mirrors in the glass with. And we used to have that. Nothing good comes from closing when we were like really trying to embed it into our life. And it really helped.
You can finish it so quickly. You can turn that situation around so quickly when you go, okay, I'm closed. And so is she, but I'm picking up that I'm probably a bit less close than her. So it's my role.
I love it. I love that taking the responsibility and being accountable for you can play a role in the reopening. Sophie and I just did an episode on our use of MDMA. And part of the reason why it's been so relevant was for Sophie more than for me initially, at least, was because intimacy and sexuality had gotten closed off for her for years. The relationship before me was a pretty turbulent, abusive one. And so sex became not even just something that's not enjoyable, but a point of pain. And, there was sexual assault and things like that happened on a pretty regular basis. And so she kind of turned it off. And you mentioned I'm more close than she is, she's more close than I am, whatever is true for your relationship.
For the moment.
Sometimes it feels like it's just shut. It feels like it's completely closed off and barricaded.
But it's one gesture away.
Yeah.
It's one gesture away. I always find this so interesting because it's literally one small gesture from changing.
Yeah.
Like you made that gesture in the bed of just reaching over, and now what would have happened if you didn't do that is the next day would have at least have been gone.
At least the next day.
Possibly a week.
Have you guys, I don't know your stance on sobriety, on substance use. It's funny. I'm just thinking as I'm saying that, I'm like, I know the stereotype of music and the music world, but what do you guys say when the chasm is so wide? Are you guys open to those sorts of like interventions? Is it when you talk to other couples who struggle with those things, what is your stance on that?
Well, it's interesting that neither of us have really drunk anything for the last 10 years. I've maybe had the equivalent of a glass of red wine in 10 years, just little sips, when my dad wants me to try something or something like that,
funny.
Just to share that moment. And we've never really been, certainly not recreational drug takers.
Yeah.
It's interesting being in LA because we've just arrived here. There is a constant conversation around ayahuasca and 5-MeO-DMT and MDMA. Like, it is such a big thing here.
In LA.
Huge, right? It's just not really, to be honest, it's not as part of the fabric of society in Australia.
Or
it's definitely
anywhere outside of LA.
Yeah,
probably.
exactly.
It definitely exists. It's less accessible as well. It's not really a part of our world. It doesn't come up a lot. But
really
totally, we don't judge. It's whatever.
No. That's the reason I was asking is intimacy can be a gesture away, and yet some people have been through trauma, like real trauma, and so they have, I don't want to say locked away the potential of ever seeing somebody else's gesture as safe, but it's almost like their system neurochemically is programmed to watch for risk so much that there are few and far between are the gestures that somebody can provide, or it can take just years and years and years of trust building to get to that point.
So as an intervention to short circuit the process.
Yeah. And actually, I guess, so I'm asking, maybe in addition to that, I'm asking, like, I'm sure people reach out to you on a regular basis. Like, what are some of the tools? I always like having practical tools for the listeners. Like, what are some practical tools when you mention, Nick, as gesture for somebody who is struggling right now, where either they know themselves that they have a really hard time with intimacy because when somebody approaches, they retract from fear, or for somebody who's in a situation where their partner retracts and they're trying to bridge the gap?
I think, first of all, educating yourself is really important. So if I hadn't have had a few key books in my life, I just wouldn't have had the tools to even call in someone like Melissa, let alone do the things we've been able to do together on an intimate life. It just wouldn't have been possible. So I think taking responsibility and educating yourself is really important. And, there are books out there which can just change your life. Melissa's book, Open Wide, is a life changer for women, for sure. The Way of the Superior Man was one that I read and just went, oh my God, I've been blind. And now I see, I didn't know what it meant to be a man in the 21st century before I read that book. I had no idea. So I think educating is really important, and taking responsibility and then putting that into action. And from the masculine perspective, I think for men out there, I think fully understanding what it means to be a man in today's society, gay or straight, and being able to use the tools that have been used for thousands and thousands of years, whether it's Tantra or Taoism, these sorts of practices. And you can not only transform your relationship, you can transform yourself. If you're ejaculating 5 times a week, like, good luck with your mission. You're going to be very deflated. Some people have more, chi than other people and can handle it. But for me personally, my experience with that is, like, I've really had to master that side of my own physical body, because the minute that I did, my entire universe changed. The minute I started using that energy for more productive things in my life, I not only became healthier and stronger, I called in this beautiful thing. And then I got into put into practice these amazing practices which have elevated our sex life to, it's not even, to be honest, not even, sex life almost undermines the importance of what it is. It is how we came together was this, it was that union, that physical intimacy that really made our connection stand out, didn't it? It was very, very, very different. It was just... So anyway, to answer the question, sorry, darling, I think taking responsibility, educating yourself, and actually doing the work and putting it into action.
Yep. And starting small, as well. If there has been trauma and I think they think, I've got to get to there. But just starting small with even just trust, touch, just something so simple, just to build that trust, because their trust has been broken through whatever traumatic incident happened. And so that has to be built. And I think the reason we were able to go so deep so quickly in our sexual life and in our relationship is because there was so much trust. Because, from day one, I felt safe. I felt held. But if I didn't feel that, I wouldn't have been able to be so open in my heart, open in all my chakras. I wouldn't have been able to do that. And so I think, just starting small and just building that trust.
I think another gesture, it just reminded me of something which happened a few weeks ago. We do this walk where we live in Noosa. We do this walk along the beach in the evenings and up through the main streets. It's really beautiful. And at the time, we weren't like in a bad place or anything, but we weren't like fully vibing. And we got to this beautiful little spot, the sun was setting, and I just stopped walking, turned her around and just gave her the biggest pash, like tongue down the throat pash, like just, like it was so beautiful and so sensual, not tongue down the throat, but a good appropriate usage
like
of
halfway down.
a good appropriate usage of tongue.
Close.
But that gesture, it's a small gesture. It's sometimes really hard to do the small things like that, but they lead to very big results. And then I can't remember if we made love that night. We probably did, because all it takes for me personally to be turned on is just one kiss. Like if I feel love is flowing, then my body turns on. If there's no love, I'm just like shut off. And so, but I found that it's really easy to open the circuit of love between each other with the smallest of gestures, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah.
Something so simple, a touch, just hand on the back.
Could be a nice
hands.
comment even, just to, maybe you're not quite at the kiss. It's like, you look really beautiful today, baby.
Yeah.
And then a little touch and then a kiss later in the day. And all of a sudden that evening, you're in a different space.
Yeah. I think what I like about that is for some people, there's a lot of fear to go all in. And so these little moments can offer opportunities to just advance the cause a little step at a time.
Well, the other thing as well is everyone has a different situation. So I have a 14-year-old son, Melissa's bonus son, and he's with us around half the time. But when he's up in our other home with Melissa, when we're all together, things are different. So, everyone's got a different situation when you've got kids, no kids. I think it's important to honor that and to say, well, my relationship's going to look different to Nick and Melissa's or whoever's, right? Because when Leo's with us, we have to be really, really conscious about having our time together, because it's very easy in that, say, 2-week period or 3-week period for things to go a bit off the rails, because we've had this sort of little cocoon of time together where it's like, we wake up in the morning, let's make love, like it's pretty easy. And then all of a sudden you've got this other energy, this other responsibility. So I think we've got better in those times. Number one, of making space, but also me recognizing that bringing my child into that situation, I need to give Melissa a little bit more attention and love.
Totally.
So she doesn't feel like she's now this sort of third wheel.
I think it's so important. Like if you have kids, and I'd love to hear your perspective on this, but for us, making the space, creating the space for our relationship is so, whether it's once a week date night, like for us, it's just when Leo is with us, he's in bed, then that's our time.
Yeah.
And we give him a strict bedtime so that we can have our time. Because during the day, it's, as you know, it's all about them. And so he has a strict bedtime so that then we can get into bed and make love and talk and connect or have a bath or whatever we do. And that's our special time. And so, it's really important, whether it's once a week or every night. And even in the morning, we also have a bit of time in the morning. We get up a bit earlier when he's there, so we can just lay in bed, talk, connect, kiss, make love, whatever we feel like doing. Just those, like, bookending your day. If you have kids, with a little bit of time together will go such a long way. What do you guys do with 3 kids?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially the same, just a little amplified. We have to make time, it's like... And baby phase is way different than older kids. Like with the older ones, we can just say, go watch a show, make your brother breakfast, go play like Legos with the baby. Once she's up, it's over. So it's, I think at different steps along the way and different stages along the way, we've had to adjust and check in with one another and figure out what works for this current, place that we're in at that time. And it's constantly evolving and changing and shifting based on our demands, based on work, based on the energy that's going out.
Or even travel, like for us right now, we're traveling and, it's just different. We're out of routine. And
Yep.
And we're staying up so much later and we're getting up earlier. And so you just do need to be more conscious of it.
And just know that it's not about, for us, if we don't carve out the time, it probably won't happen.
Totally.
It's not because we don't want to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've got to put it in your calendar.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, same with us.
Yeah.
Because it's like meditating, it's like working out, it's like yoga. If you don't put those in your calendar, they will not happen.
Right. Yeah. So we just started, we realize it once it's missing, right? We'll be like, oh, it's been 2 weeks since we've had sex. Well, what can we do here? And then it was okay, we haven't had a date night in a while. Okay, let's start there. Every Thursday night, au pair is scheduled. Thursday nights is our date night. Okay, create space. Whether or not it happens or not, the intention is there to share space together, to, even if we're tired, even if it's been a long week, we're showing up for one another. And that in itself then ends up creating a ripple effect in a positive way.
Oh, totally.
We used to, before the kids for sure, but morning sex was a big thing for us. And, with kids, it's just harder, especially when you're up to 2 or 3 kids and there's almost always a baby in our bed when we wake up. But it's definitely an adjustment. It's definitely, I think you made a point that was really, that I really want to make sure people pay attention to. And that is when the circumstances change, just that thing we talked about before about taking accountability for your 50%. Don't just expect that the other person will now do what is required to keep the intimacy going. Your fucking job, figure some shit out. And if what Nick was saying before about do a little something throughout the day to just keep a little taste of intimacy.
That makes a huge difference.
Yeah, because I think in so many other areas in life, we just get carried away with the flow when life changes and takes us that way.
I think that the masculine's funny as well, just speaking as a heterosexual male, because often the masculine tendencies in lovemaking is to get to the point a bit too quickly. And I've been sort of going back into a lot of Taoist work recently, I feel like we've reached a point in our own lovemaking where it's it's been amazing and we've normalized at a very high level. Okay, but now that's become our normal, let's go somewhere else now. So I've sort of dived back into it. And there's this beautiful, I can't remember the exact words, but it was something along the lines of the penis is, did I say a lightning rod or a fire rod or something? Like a fire, just call it a fire rod. I can't remember the exact name. And the woman or the vagina is like a pot of water. And when you're stirring that pot of water, it takes a while to bring it up to warmth, especially to make it boil. And the fire rod has to have enough energy and enough flame to maintain enough length of time to heat the water up, which comes back to obviously semen retention, these sorts of things as techniques. But that little connection through the day, whether it's, just a little bit of intimacy in the morning, doesn't have to be making love, but that kiss at lunchtime, if you work from home together like we do, or, when they come home from work and that moment, that can start the warming process. And men are so freaking stupid sometimes. We forget the simplest things. It can make our lives so much easier.
We talked about that in one of the old episodes because when you're courting, waiting for the date starts the warm up. Going to the dinner, there's already the look and the little touches. It's a warm up. And then you've been together for 10 years and you forget all the little easy to use techniques that you put so much attention on. And you're absolutely right. We literally talked about this in one of the other episodes. There's this much longer warming up period to really create the heat that you want.
And you know what? It's it doesn't even have to be these grand gestures. Like he might send me a text message and I'm downstairs and he's like, have I told you lately just how beautiful I think you are? And my heart goes, oh, like I just fully melt. He's like, that took you 30 seconds to write and you just made my day.
And your base chakra starts spinning.
Yeah, exactly. And, or, we leave like little notes around the house on a sticky note. Like, I'm so proud of you, or I love you. Like something so simple. Doesn't cost any money.
Right.
It's the gesture. And I feel like we are very mindful of doing those little things and the compliments, and it's so easy not to do them.
Right.
And we do forget. Like,
Yeah, we do.
By no means perfect.
Yeah.
We just have moments where we remember like, oh, that's right.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, that feels so good. And it's not like we need it, but it's nice. You know?
I think we do need it. I think we need
need it too.
reminders. I think because I'm someone who that isn't my love language. Affirmations is not my love language.
What's yours?
Well, for a long time it was physical touch. And then I had babies and it kind of transferred into acts of service.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah, like all I want is for him to say, I got the kids, you sleep in.
Yeah.
Or, you know what? I scheduled you a massage. Your afternoon, you're taking off, and I've got the kids under control, like no questions asked. Or I booked us a date night. Babysitter's booked. Kids are happy. Like what? Like that act of service that I would have typically been taking the time and energy to do, or not. I maybe wouldn't have treated myself to that massage or ran myself ragged.
I think the reminders are important too.
Yeah.
I mean, personally for me, maybe it's just my personality, but I like, we use the app called Things, which is like our personal productivity system. And I have in there reminders to text her every day.
Yeah.
Because I forget.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dee has like tell your wife you love her in his
same with
calendar
him.
like a few random times. Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Whatever you gotta do.
Takes. Whatever it takes.
Exactly.
He's very like ADD, ADHD. Like he's very attentive to what is in front of him, which is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
If you're also someone that forgets about things, cool, put it in your calendar. No shame in your game.
No way. Or put a reminder
No
in
one
your
cares.
phone.
I know that reminder's there. So
Yeah.
when he tells me, I know he just saw it. It doesn't make me care about it less.
No
It doesn't
way.
make it feel any less real.
No.
I know he means it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I
We're
know
the
with
same.
Nick's as
Yeah.
well. Like, and if you've got to put alarms on your phone at 12 o'clock every day to text your partner and say, you look so beautiful today, or whatever, or just compliment
And I
her.
think just most importantly, asking for what you need. And that's
Yeah.
something that comes really hard, I think, mostly for women, but also for men. Men don't, the typical man doesn't want to have to ask for what he needs. Like, it just wants to come to him. And the typical woman's like, I've got it all under control. And like, I'm just this passive. Well, no, nothing's going to happen. We can't read minds. And, when we're away, another thing that's been really great is when we're away from each other, like the little flirtation in between. It's so easy. I just forget. I'm with kids. He's off at a business trip. But like, it takes 30 seconds.
Totally.
That little flirt, a GIF. Like I'm like new on the GIF game, but like a little flirty, like the sheets, whatever. Like there's so many different GIFs. Like
you have to teach me how to do those.
I'll teach you. It's a game changer because it just immediately makes you feel something,
That's
Cool.
And it's so sweet. Like even just like cute little sexy pictures.
Yeah.
Like when we're away, and often he will be in another city with Leo and I'll be in our other place. So I'm like where I've got all this time and he's too busy, and I'm just like, what about me? Like, hello, I'm
Pay
still
attention
here.
to me.
Yeah, pay attention to me.
Yeah.
And then he'll send me like one message and my whole heart just melts.
We get to about day 10. I'm like, hey, baby, can you send me a little nudie photo? Like, I really want to see it. And
Again, asking for what you want.
Yeah.
There's no
Yes.
shame in that. Like
No.
she didn't send it not because she doesn't want to send it, because it just didn't cross her mind that day. But you remembered, so just say it.
she's also got fears of like iCloud leaks, but
Yeah, I do too. I do too.
I
No,
watch
do
too many of those movies.
I do too.
And now I'm like, no, Mom, I'm not doing anymore.
Literally, and like his assistants check all his
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not sending you anything. I'm like, I'm scared if I take it with a filter on Instagram, like I'm going to be that girl that accidentally sends it.
Yes.
And then hundreds of thousands of people see it. So yeah, it is scary, but I send pictures via text and
yeah, we found a way. And
Yeah.
and I was just
And I enjoy them.
Yes.
yeah, I bet you do.
I'm sure every man
And it just
does.
made me think, that first date, second date, third date, that feeling of like intense wanting and passion. It's just, I remember the moment where things really changed for us. I think we'd kissed maybe once before this moment, but Melissa was in the middle of a tour and there was no expectations at the time, and a little bit of time had passed and we hadn't really texted or anything. And I think you text me and you'd come home and you were reading, funny enough, Dear Lover by David Dieter in the bath at home. And I was like, hey, what are you doing tonight? And she said, well, not much. And I said, do you want to come over? And she said, I'll be there. No, you said, I'm coming over. You just said it. And literally, like, the drive from her house at the time was maybe 20 minutes. No joke. She was in the bath. She was there in 25 minutes. Right. She comes up in the elevator in this tight little red dress. And I'm mid-conversation with a neighbor. She comes out and I literally grabbed her, pushed her against the wall and started pashing her. And we hadn't really done that yet. And we went out on this, like, our first proper date. And at that first proper date, that's where we spoke about getting married. Like, it just, and we were so hot for each other. And we can still get to that place.
Yeah.
But my challenge for the listeners would be, and for anyone, is that what can you do as a little challenge for yourself, a personal challenge, without your partner knowing? How can you get them into that state without? Don't tell them what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, try and like
surprise them.
Yeah.
Like a fun little game.
Yeah.
Be a fun challenge. Like this
and forever
week.
keeping that game alive.
Totally.
When
And
we're
that's-
traveling, and it doesn't take much at all.
No,
Just once a
and
week. If you
that's-
can get your partner into that state once a week, you are in a very tiny percentage
Totally.
of the
And
world.
Yeah.
we've been married for 6 years, and like Nick was saying, we hit a ceiling with our lovemaking. So that's why we're now diving deeper into the Taoism, and like, it's just so exciting and fresh and new, and it's so important.
And you never get there. Like, there's
No.
never a point. Like, if you feel like things are stale or stagnant in a certain area, it's time to go back to work, go back to therapy, see a healer, see a sex coach, whatever it is. You never stop learning. Get a new book, start reading together. It's your person for the rest of your life. Like, are you going to just stop in your own life? Like, stop growing? No. So don't do the same in your relationship.
Yeah, totally. And there's so many epic resources out there.
Yeah.
There's books, there's podcasts like this, there's YouTube videos, there's incredible people out there that we all have access to for free.
Yeah.
To take our relationship to the next level. And I think I'm so grateful that I'm with someone who is equally committed to the growth. Like, we just had a conversation and it was me, and I was like, I feel like we've hit a ceiling in our sex life. I feel like it's amazing, and most people would probably be really happy and content with that, but I'm like, it's time.
I'm gonna be crude about it for a second, but I think you'll get why. Like, you can go to the best sushi place on the face of the earth, like the most incredible, amazing sushi place. The first time you have it, it's magical. Second time, it's amazing. You keep going. You're there for 2 years, and that's all you've eaten for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You want something else, and we can pretend like we're not going to find that in our partner. We can say to ourselves, "Well, I guess we're stuck. This is what I'm stuck with forever." Not recognizing we're eating the best sushi on the face of the planet. Or we can turn to the waiter and go, "Hey, do you guys serve anything else here?" And just go to our partner and, like you said before, just ask. Just literally just what you just said, Melissa. Just go to our partner and say, "Hey, our sex is amazing. I need a little change. Like,
Need some gyoza.
yeah.
You say to the waiter, like, what have you got? And they say, I've got some gyoza. You're like, what?
Oh, I know.
I didn't know you had
dumplings.
that.
You got this is
Just do it.
amazing. Yeah, exactly. So I think I love it. I love that somehow we ended up here from the beginning. This is really beautiful, and
Not surprised.
And I love the challenge, right? Because I think it's important. We all need to challenge ourselves all the time. And what I love about what you said, Nick, is take it upon yourself. Don't start doing that thing in your head where you're saying, well, here's why my partner and I are not having the best sex. Forget that. Take it upon yourself.
One of the best things I remember from therapy, which I still struggle with right now and always for the rest of time, is if you want something, just do it. You want your husband to touch you more? Touch him more. And I'm so resistant to that because I'm like, fuck that. Touch me.
You do it to me first. Yeah.
Like,
It just doesn't work, does it?
Yeah, no.
It just
Like, if
doesn't
you're
work.
wanting more love,
Yeah.
go give them more love. It's
make
so
love.
It's
Oh.
energy. A plus B equals C always.
Yeah.
If you put more energy out, it will come back to you. Whatever you put out into the universe will come back. Same in love, same in these gestures.
Yeah.
I love it. So I feel like this could go for 14 hours.
Time to eat dinner.
But this is not a Joe Rogan podcast. Love you, Joe Rogan. It's all good. We've got 5 questions we ask everybody.
Oh.
We want to ask you our questions. You can answer
Sweet.
them as a couple. You can ask them separately. We do
We'll
not
give you
discriminate.
we'll give you the yin yang perspective.
I love
Yeah,
it.
let's do it. I wonder if they're going to be the same.
So, question number 1. What is the best advice you've ever received
About relationships
in life?
in life, the best advice.
You can take all the time you want.
I think, the first thing that came to me, and it's really simple, and this is something that was so powerful for me. It was like, be your own best friend. Because for so many years, I was my own worst enemy. And I treated myself so poorly. And it's very simple, but I think it's just be your own best friend. Have
great.
your own back.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, that's mine.
Yeah, this is probably advice from myself to myself, and my lesson in life is do what you love sooner. Because it's so easy to put off that thing that lights you up because it may not fit the social norms of what success is or whatever.
As we're sitting here podcasting in our basement office. I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But whatever it is that if you just know you're born to do something or something lights you up, do it sooner. Do it as a teenager. Start it so when you leave school, you can freaking do that for a living. Don't follow the usual path.
Love it. Love it so much. Second question. What is your proudest moment to date?
I have a couple. Can I give a few?
You can give as many as you want.
I was definitely proud marrying you. That was definitely, I felt very proud and definitely marrying you. I also felt really proud when I launched my first book. That was a really proud moment. And when I did my first TED Talk last year, very proud. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think marrying you for sure. I was very honored to marry Melissa. I felt in awe of her, completely in awe of her. I still do. And it's easy to forget that.
I think you're not the only one.
It's easy to forget that sometimes because I'm around awesomeness all the time. But we were doing a show here in LA called the Carlson and Lisa show. It's a morning show this week. And I was watching her because we were filming it separately on different days. And I was watching her talk and I was like, oh my God, that's my wife.
I love those moments.
But I can't go past the birth of Leo. I mean, I definitely was a different person back then. Yeah. I definitely didn't appreciate that at the time as much as I do now. But I was a really young dad and I feel very, very honored and proud to have a 14-year-old that humbles me in his own beauty and humility.
Oh, it's beautiful.
If he's the only thing I did in this world, I've done a good job.
Oh, that's so good.
Yep.
Agreed.
What has been your most difficult moment to date?
So many. I think a very difficult time for me was losing my best friend in 2015. Yeah, 5 years ago now. Wow. That was really challenging because I'd never lost anyone close to me before. And so didn't have any tools, didn't really understand the depth of pain. And so that was very, very difficult, but so much growth through that as well. And then what's been quite difficult, another thing is stepping into the role of a stepmom has been quite challenging for me to get my head around and find my place whilst being triggered, all my childhood wounds being triggered. So that, and then me taking responsibility and looking at that and doing the work on that, that's been very difficult too. But again, so much growth on the other side.
Yeah.
There always is.
Always.
Yeah, I mean, I actually would echo that and say that supporting you in that process of moving through the triggers brought up by being a step parent, because Leo is a very beautiful, shiny, amazing child, but he's a very shiny mirror that has been placed here in this situation with the three of us to shine light on the things that Melissa was not aware of.
didn't even
even know about these
they were
traumas.
there. This
Right.
trauma.
Of course.
Didn't even know.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, you know?
And to be honest, until a couple of weeks ago, there was something which Melissa hadn't even been aware of in her childhood, which came up in a session with this new lady we were working with. And I fell more in love with her because of that, because I just saw her and I was just like, oh, my heart just melted. But it's very challenging being a parent with the two people you love the most and seeing the challenges there.
Yeah.
So, because you can't pick. You can't choose.
Totally.
Like,
And
it's family.
you can't even, it's almost like you have no control over the end result. You just have to let it play out.
Yeah.
It's full trust and surrender. And I know, all storms pass. Like, I get it. So that's definitely a big one. But I just wanted to also put in there going through a divorce, because that triggered so many things for me that were challenging with health. I ended up in hospital and I was bedridden for a few years, and just stuff like that, which was such a deep, dark hole to come out of. But man, when you do, you have a serious arsenal of tools.
Profound, yeah.
Like, yeah.
Damn. Well, on that note, self-care. What do you do? What are non-negotiables for you?
Oh my goodness. I feel like for me, my whole life is just about self-care. Like, I don't do anything that anymore. I used to, loads of things, but I don't do anything anymore that isn't in alignment with self-care. So like for me, meditating, moving my body, eating really nutritious organic food, clean water, making sure my relationships are thriving, like spending time in nature, doing work that I love. Like, you go through every area of your life and I'm like, it's all making me thrive. It's all filling me up. I spent way too much of my life self-sabotaging, doing work that I hated, surrounding myself with very toxic relationships, toxic men, eating toxic food, using toxic products.
Toxic
friendships, exactly. And I feel like, everything that we do in our life is to fill ourselves up so that we can serve others.
Right.
So we have lots of beautiful rituals that we do every day.
We do. And certainly Vedic meditation or transcendental meditation was a game changer for me. That technique, which I've now been doing for, I think, coming on 12 years now. That completely shifted. In fact, it's probably largely responsible for my marriage breakup, actually, because I went on a different path and that gap got so much bigger. So meditation's, of course, hugely important. But it's interesting, I haven't been as disciplined since we moved to Noosa because I've got other things which I haven't had, such as being able to surf every day. And that has fed me in a way that's been really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think surfing is meditation. I think it's meditative.
Right.
It doesn't give the same benefit, but it gives me a benefit that I'm enjoying at the moment. But we just take we're very disciplined, actually. When I go to Bondi, our second home with Leo, I'm less disciplined. It's like I'm a bit rebellious. Yeah. So when I'm back with Melissa and Noosa, it's like, oh, thank God, I've got someone to keep me in line, But we have our routines that we like, we have lemon waters in the morning, we do our celery juice, we have the same smoothie every morning, we all organic. When we go out for a meal, we always check what they're cooking with. We ask them to water saute or to use olive oil or something, whatever, right? We're really, really fanatical about that stuff because we've lost our health, both of us, and we don't want to do that again. But and for me, nature has been a huge thing, and physical self-care. As a man, I love to feel strong. I love to feel muscular. I'm not going to lie. Like, it makes me feel fantastic. My testosterone's higher. I have more vigor. So we've got a lot of things we do. That's like a drop in the ocean of what we do.
Don't you feel though, at least this is the way I am, like, it's so much more fun to be disciplined when you have the freedom to not be too. Like, I don't know that I would thrive and feel fulfilled being disciplined if I didn't also play. Like the fact that you have those weekends or weeks with Leo to let yourself off the hook is probably part of the reason why being disciplined on your own feels so good.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like, if you just, I don't know, personally, if I just lived my life that way 24/7, I'd be fucking bored.
Yeah.
And it's like, sure, I'm thriving. I'm like at 100% health, but like, I'm not actually having any fun or play. And like
Yes.
sometimes I want some ice cream,
We've hit
Yeah.
that point for sure.
you know?
And play is self-care.
Yeah.
That's self-love.
Yeah.
Play, like this morning, we're staying with friends. I was on the trampoline.
Yeah.
I was jumping on playing, being silly.
Yeah.
Like that is something like I have dancing, and kids are great for this.
Yeah.
Being silly, like making funny voices,
Yeah.
singing out of tune, dancing around the house. Like this is me constantly.
Yeah.
But there was a part of me that didn't do that for so long because I felt like I had to be put together
Right.
and look a certain way. And now I'm just like, I do not care. Like I dance stupidly, I sing stupidly because it brings me joy. And that's that's self-care. That's self-love, you know?
I agree.
I think the playful stuff as well is interesting because Melissa asked me maybe 3 or 4 years ago, what do you want your legacy to be with Leo? And at the time, I could feel I wasn't parenting in a way that was fully in alignment with my values. And the same with Melissa. We're both kind of a bit off with our parenting. And I just went, oh, I want him to remember me as the most playful dad ever. So from that moment, I just changed everything. And my absolute priority when Leo's around is he wants to play, I'm playing. So before school and after school, every single day, without fail,
love that.
we play. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Final question. This podcast is called Ignited. What ignites you?
For me personally, it's everything we've discussed because it's just so juicy. So family, love, relationships, but nothing lights me up more than completing a song and releasing it.
You have a new song, right?
Yes, I have a new song called Breathe, which just came out last week. Really, really proud of it. It's actually about the polarity in relationships. So the chorus is, I'll be waiting for you. And then the very end, it resolves with, you'll be waiting for me. And it's about the times where generally we find that one of us is holding space for the other, we're waiting for them, and then it switches. That's the polarity. So you can check that out on Spotify or Apple Music, wherever you listen to music.
Amazing.
Yep.
It's a beautiful song. It's so beautiful. And I think for me, there's so many things, but one of the best things that just makes me feel so lit up and ignited is conversations like these. Like when you just drop in and you can go deep and you can be honest and vulnerable and your true self. Like for so many years, I hung out with people that I felt like I couldn't be my true self.
Yeah. Or you just wouldn't go there.
Yeah, you would never go there. It's like you just surface level. Like, how are you? Yeah, good. You good? Yeah, yeah. I'm like, oh my God, that's so boring. Like, I don't want to play in the shallow end. I want to go deep.
Yeah.
And I love being in conversation where, like, we had a 4-hour conversation with friends today. 4 hours. And none of us looked at our phone and we're like, oh my God, we've been sitting here for 4 hours. That happens a lot with us. We have people over for dinner. Like we have couples over for dinner and they're there for like 6 hours and we're like, holy moly.
Same. We've sat and closed the restaurants and we're like, what time is it? Everyone's gone. We're like, oh, it is closing. Totally. Yeah.
Totally. And then, things like meditating, being in nature, like really for me, deep connection, like deep intimacy with Nick, writing, speaking on stage in total flow state. That for me is just my total jam. Yeah, all of
And doing
that.
it together, we love that.
Yeah, we love doing that together.
One of the reasons we're here, we're going off to New York tomorrow, is to have meetings around doing our own TV show.
Oh, cool.
And we're excited about that.
Yeah.
That ignites us.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you guys so much. This is the best kind of podcasts are when we just throw it together. We're like, want to record? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Thank
for having
you for
us and
sharing
thank
your
you
stories.
for being examples.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming over. Can't wait to hear from our listeners about what really connected. I feel like we had so many different amazing areas.
Couples that listen. So this will be great.
Awesome.
And following on Nick's challenge, for those of you who follow through, I want to hear results. So either DM us or screenshot this podcast after you do it, tag all 4 of us and
Yes.
Ignited, and let us know, how did it work? What did it do?
Love to know.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all for joining us. See you next week. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Ignited podcast. We were so happy to have you along for this ride. Please go and subscribe to this. Leave us a review. We love hearing from you. And if you want more, don't forget to go to ignited.com, where all the podcast episodes are available with show notes and so many of the little details and links from each one of these interviews. And you can look at all the future events that we have going on, all the things that make Ignited so special, even beyond this recording. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week.